The Funhouse is the 18th episode of the first season of The Middle, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And this is one of the episodes I remembered really well from back when I used to binge watch the show back in the day. Some episodes are not that strong in my memory. This one really was, and I think it's fantastic. So as always, there will be spoilers as I go through the episode. I'm not going to go through it chronologically. I'll talk about the different parts of the narrative in turn. We have a very small subplot involving Brick interviewing his family for a class project. What we got was good, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. It's not so much that it felt underdeveloped, it's simply that I really enjoyed what we got. And I would have liked to have seen what else they might have done with that, but it was absolutely fine. Then we have two parts of the narrative that take up, I'd say, pretty much equal time. And one involves the basement, and one involves Ehlert Motors. And the basement is because Frankie makes a comment that she's always fed up of Axel going over to the Donahues. She wishes he'd spend time at the house, and Mike surprises everybody by getting a pool table. It's a free pool table from a place that closed down, but nevertheless, he sets up the pool table in the basement. And what I really liked about what Frankie did is Axel asked if some friends could come over, and Frankie kind of initially said that she thought it could just be a family thing, but it would be okay if she guesses, kind of like saying, well, I don't really want you to do this, and Axel will then do it because it's going to wind up his parents. And I really like the approach she took there. And the kids all come over to their house, and Mike in particular is loving it. It's not very often we get to see any real emotion with Mike. He's either quite passive or he masks his emotions, but he seems initially genuinely very excited to be in the thick of it. And he cooks some pizza rolls, by which I mean he microwaves some pizza rolls, and he even tells Frankie that she can take them down to the basement, but she has to let them know that Mike was the one who made them, and he's really happy about it. Things then start to take a turn roughly around the time Brad has a talk with Mike, and it's very cleverly written. It does seem like Brad is talking about certain feelings that are not heterosexual, and Mike tells him to just follow his instincts, and the next thing we know, Brad had asked Carly out. That's what he was talking about, and Sue is obviously not happy with this, and then Mike becomes increasingly unhappy with kids trampling everywhere, dropping food on the carpet, and then it kind of reaches its peak when a kid is sitting on the sofa next to Mike, and he asks him how he knows Axel, and the kid's like, who's Axel? So Mike kind of had his limit, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. Frankie is down at Ehlert Motors, and a drunk customer comes in, and Frankie, being a good person, refuses to sell the drunk person a car because she's not fully aware of what she's doing. And as soon as she says, I can't sell you this car, the woman snaps out of being drunk. She was a motivational consultant that Mr. Ehlert had hired. And honestly, this character and her behaviour is so unpredictable. What happens after that is so chaotic in a way that's really engaging, but so unpredictable. And she then tells Frankie that Frankie has to fire somebody, that Frankie is the one to make the decision. And Frankie ultimately decides that the person who's getting fired is herself. And it turns out that that was a test that the motivational consultant knew Frankie would say herself. And she did this to show Frankie that she doesn't value herself. Honestly, it seems like a very stressful way of telling somebody that message, telling somebody something that they probably already know about themselves. But she gave her some motivation and made her realise that actually she's not just this, she's not just that. She is this person with these capabilities, and it was great. And it was nice to see Frankie actually feeling empowered for a change. She goes home, she shares this with Mike in the car, who is hiding from the chaos in the house, and then they hatch a plan to get rid of all the kids because they won't leave. And Frankie and Mike go down to the basement, put on some music, and start dancing. That's one way to cramp the style. And everybody left because nobody wants to be there with the parents. And I thought it was a really fun way to end things. It's also nice to see Frankie and Mike just letting loose and having fun. And it was really sweet, and I really enjoyed it. I think the Funhouse is, well, it's a really fun episode. definitely unpredictable with part of the narrative, and from start to finish, I thought it was really enjoyable. No complaints from me. Definitely a really solid episode of The Middle.